Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to today's tropical weather outlook for Saturday, June 27th, 2026. Today, we're going to talk about a new threat that is potentially brewing here in the Atlantic. Off the southeast coast, the National Hurricane Center is monitoring a new area for development that the models, certain models especially, have been hinting at for a few days now. And if something does materialize, this might be a threat to the U.S. coast and potentially coming for the July 4th holiday. So definitely a lot to be watching here over the next week. We're going to take a look at what the models show today, including what the National Hurricane Center says. And let's actually start there, taking a look at the latest bulletin from the National Hurricane Center, updated to the 2 p.m. advisory. And yeah, you can see here off the southeast coast, an area, low chance of development right now, 20% over the next 7 days. But you can see here it's highlighted near the southeast coast. We're watching a frontal boundary, which is draped across the United States right now, stretching from around the Midwest, mid-south area of the United States, extending eastward all the way off the coast, and for pretty much the entirety here of the northwestern Atlantic. In fact, take a look at the satellite shot right now, and you can see it very clearly here. A front that extends from as west as Missouri and over the central part of the United States here. Already quite a bit of decent convective activity here over Mississippi and Missouri and Kentucky, stretching eastward. And this kind of connects into a extratropical system here, which is probably somewhere far off to the north in the northern Atlantic. But this whole system here is slowly moving on off to the eastward, and this front eventually is going to make its way eastward, and we are watching the tail end of the front here, as we typically do, especially with these kinds of development early on in the season, to potentially move on off to the east coast, break off, and maybe we will see development occur here along the southeast coast. In fact, let me actually bring you in a little bit closer here so you can see how things are looking like right now. And you can definitely see there is quite a bit of decent convective activity blowing up over Kentucky and West Virginia, stretching back into Missouri right now. We're probably seeing some shower and thunderstorm activity, and probably going to see a few severe storms today for the general central eastern portion of the United States here. And interestingly enough, when you go to the vorticity map, you could also see where, we have a lot of convective activity over Kentucky and Missouri today. That's also reflected quite decently in the vorticity signature as well. Decent amount of vorticity over Missouri and generally through the eastern portions of the Midwest here, stretching into the Appalachia mountain area, especially into Western Virginia. And we're going to have to watch this piece of energy here as the front moves on off to the east, and eventually some of this vorticity here will break off and try to develop, especially off the southeast coast where sea surface temperatures are warm, and in general off the southeast coast, climatologically speaking, this time of year, late June, early July, is where we typically watch for in terms of tropical development. So, with that being said, let's take a look at how the models show things playing out right now, starting off with the 12Z GFS, and you can see how it happens here. Energy coming from the United States, and then it kind of moves on off to the east here, kind of dips on off to the south as well, as this front slides on off to the east. The piece of energy here at the tail end breaks off, and the GFS shows that some sort of closed low pressure here does try to develop, and then the vorticity is decent, but interestingly enough, the GFS here less aggressive on development right now, and it kind of fizzles out as it heads further to the west here as it gets closer to the U.S. coastline. So the GFS operational, not very aggressive on showing something right now. What about the European AI model? And I bring up the European AI because they have been the most aggressive model. The AI models in general have been the most aggressive on showing development here occur And you can see here the AIFS for the 12Z run, definitely more aggressive than the GFS here. They show the piece of vorticity stronger, and then it breaks off here. And then I guess in this run of the AIFS of the European, they show it kind of fizzling out as it makes its way to the coastline. So either way, whatever happens is more than likely not going to be a very strong storm, and we typically don't really see these storms early on in the season become very strong. Although there have been past instances where we have seen some hurricanes develop from circumstances like this, with fronts coming off the East Coast and then pieces of energy breaking off and then developing very close to the Southeast coast. One storm infamously was Hurricane Arthur from 2014, which also impacted the coastline, very close to the July 4th holiday. So, this time frame here, early July, is very popular. And whatever does develop here, as you can see, will move on off to the west. And probably one of the biggest reasons why is the ridge here to the north. Very, very strong, very, very powerful. In fact, it's going to pretty much set up to be a death ridge here and more than likely bring scorching hot temperatures for many across the eastern portions of the United States as we head into the 4th of July. So whatever does break off here and develop off the southeast coast will more than likely move on off to the west. And then taking a look at the European here on the 6E, not as aggressive as the European AI. So interesting divide here between the regular operational models and the AI models, with the AI models once again aggressive on development here, while the operational models are not. So a little bit of divergence right now, and so definitely there's still a little bit of uncertainty as to whether or not we actually are going to get development in the first place. But we could take a look at the ensembles though, especially for the Google AI. This is another AI model here. Although these are the Google AI ensembles, this is the 6C run. I think the 12Z is out, and to be honest with you, I think the 12Z actually downtrended from showing something developing here. But there probably are still a few ensembles, and definitely does highlight the Google AI model is showing some development here off the southeast coast. And then, of course, the European AI ensembles too, also showing something here. So when you have the ensembles hinting at the signal as well, instead of just the operational models, you kind of have to put those two together and make an inference that there is a signal here, and it is something that we're going to have to watch very closely here over the next week. And as I said before, early July is a popular time frame for development, and taking a look at development that we typically see in the Atlantic in the first 10 days of July. I mentioned Arthur as one of the storms that happened recently, but in general here in the first 10 days of July, there are some points that show up here off the southeast coast, and especially in recent years, I feel like we've kind of seen a pattern where we would see stuff off the southeast coast as well. Oh, so another storm too, Claudette of last year, and I believe that also impacted the Carolinas as well, very close or right around the July 4th holiday as well. So looks like as we get towards July 4th here, things are going to get interesting off the southeast coast. And climatology definitely hints at that and supports that, as we in general watch the Western Atlantic here early on in the season, but especially in the first 10 days of July, things kind of pick up a little bit here off the southeast coast. But not just climatology wise, taking a look at how things are actually set up right now, especially with the sea surface temperatures off the southeast coast as well. Things are very warm sea surface temperature anomaly wise. Many anomalies here as much as 1 to maybe even 2 degrees Celsius above normal. And certainly, showing up in some pockets here, especially here near the coast, near the South Florida coast and in the Bahamas. And that'll be something interesting to watch and see whether or not that grows later on in the season. And I've said before, I do believe, after all, the main hotspot for this year overall, just given the general pattern with El Nino and everything, will be off the southeast coast and in the general area of the southwestern Atlantic. And it looks like we are getting development in that area here, with very warm sea surface temperature anomalies. And in terms of the actual sea surface temperatures, things are nice and toasty. You could see 27s, 28s, 29 degrees Celsius here, quite prevalent off the southeast coast, especially stretching, even pushing up against the shelf water here right along the Carolinas coast. And obviously there's also some of that being enhanced as well by the fact that we have the Gulf Stream, which streams just off the coast here. And the Gulf Stream itself sometimes is also magical too, and really helping, kickstart development. And whatever development does happen here off the southeast coast will go right over the Gulf Stream. So will this be another case of developments that get, significantly boosted by the Gulf Stream? We will see, but sea surface temperatures definitely support development here. And especially if you're talking about something that's going to happen very quickly, more than likely, things are definitely more than warm enough. In fact, I'd say there's probably been instances where where we've had quick spin-ups with cooler sea surface temperatures. So the fact we have a lot of 27s, 28s, and again, even some 29s here up along the Gulf Stream, and interestingly enough, pushing right up against the coast too, which also matters with, these quick spin-ups here that develop off the southeast coast. We will definitely have our things on the table to watch here in the tropics over the next week. And obviously we will see whether or not something does develop here. Again, the chance is low, but since it's hurricane season and we are getting into July now, the chance is not zero, especially given that whatever does happen will be happening very close to the July 4th holiday. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people would like to know whether or not there will be a tropical threat on a day where I'm especially sure a lot of people will more than likely be wanting to hit the beaches and that kind of stuff. So we're going to have to watch the tropics here very closely within the next few days, as things could get interesting. With that being said, though, I'm going to end it off for today's discussion. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I would really appreciate, as I always say in every video, if you like, comment, subscribe, especially subscribe to, stay tuned here to the tropics to see what happens over the next week. And also share this video as well with family and friends and anybody who might be near the Carolinas and along the southeast coast this upcoming week, and let them know that we're going to have to watch the tropics very closely. And again, we will see what happens and what materializes in the end. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and especially enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And I'll talk to you guys again very soon.